There is no question we can learn from others if we pay attention. And when that person has diverse experience, great wisdom, and the willingness to share, the opportunity is amazing. And that's exactly what we have today. If you want to learn about innovation, vision, and leadership from someone who has been there and done that, you are in the right place. Welcome to another episode of the Remarkable Leadership Podcast, where we are helping leaders grow personally and professionally to lead more effectively and make a bigger difference for their teams, organizations, and the world. If you are listening to this podcast, you could be with us for future episodes live on your favorite social channel. You can get information about that and get access to all future live episodes, and therefore interact with this content sooner by joining our Facebook or LinkedIn groups. Just go to remarkablepodcast.com/Facebook or remarkablepodcast.com/LinkedIn to do that. Today's episode is brought to you by our new book, The Long Distance Team, Designing a Team for Everyone's Success. You can learn more by going to longdistanceteambook.com. Our guest today is Deepak Ohri. He is the founder and CEO of Lebua Hotels and Resorts, is a well-known worldwide as an award-winning entrepreneur who has transformed the luxury hospitality landscape in Asia. He has been recognized globally as an entrepreneur and speaker. He is also the executive in residence, entrepreneur and innovation at the Pinot Global Entrepreneurship Center at the College of Business at Florida International University, where he helped pioneer the first MBA course in luxury marketing and management. Before joining Lebua, Mr. Ohri held operational roles and was an executive at leading hospitality businesses and hotels in India and Asia. He is a three-time recipient of both the Most Enterprising Entrepreneur Award by Hospitality Asia Platinum and Best in Asia Entrepreneur of the Year Award. He has been named one of International Hospitality Institute's Global Top 25 Most Inspirational Executives. And in May of last year, 2022, he joined the World Happiness Foundation as an advisory board member and created the Happiness Office at Lebua, assuming additional responsibilities as Chief Happiness Author. He is the author of a new book, A Bridge Not Too Far, Where Creativity Meets Innovation, and he is our guest today. Welcome, Deepak. I'm glad that you're here.
Thank you, Kevin. And this is what I do the best. When people lose their way, I bring them to their way. And when people lose the focus, I bring them to the focus. Sorry for saying that, Kevin, but that's what I'm best in doing that. I'm right now in Bangkok, but I'm fresh as is anything. And it is 11 p.m. It is 11 a.m. or different time zones where everyone is. And I'm here with Kevin, really looking forward to speak to you and really looking forward to answer anything Kevin needs to ask and will ask. And let's begin, Kevin.
Let's do it. Again, thank you for the grace and everybody on the podcast. If what you hear is a better introduction, that's because I will have re-recorded it. We'll just have to wait and see about that. But something happened technology-wise, and I lost the screen for a minute. But anyway, I've said a little bit about your background, and we don't have time to I don't want us to sort of go from the beginning, but I am curious what sort of led you to the work that you do specifically in hospitality and luxury hospitality. What sort of led you to this work?
So, and this question is two-pronged. First is hospitality is what I had no option, because in India, at the time I was growing up, there were two things: expertise, and there was no consideration for experience. Either you have to be a doctor, you have to be engineer, you have to be scientist. And I didn't get into any of these professional courses. So the only professional course I could get into was hospitality. So that's how I got into hospitality. Now, why I got into luxury is far much more interesting than why I got into hospitality. So when I got into hospitality, my beginnings has been humble. And when the family improvised by the time I went to the hospitality school, but still it was not at the level what people would expect. And that is where I decided to myself that I'm going to create one day something that the world will look and admire. And I did. But
You did.
more than I did, we did. And why I'm saying we did
So,
is because
wh-
I made people understand what was created. See, many of us, we always create the things and it remains singular. For me, it became plural is because I could add a lot of value. I could improvise many people's life. I could add education to that part. And then it became we, it became plural. And that's the best part because luxury can never be enjoyed alone.
so that actually leads to something I was going to ask you later. So let me just ask you now, because you talk about this in the book. You just said that luxury can't be enjoyed alone. So what do you mean by luxury? What does that I mean? I'm confident that that word conjures something in everyone's heart and mind, but I'm curious. What does that mean to you?
So I'm going to give you an example and a real lifetime example. We co-created a course at the Florida International University with a fellow professor, Dr. Anna Pitrasek, and we took students on a experiential luxury incubator course. And some of these students at the FIU, which is Florida International University, I'll call it FIU for everyone's sake now, were first-time graduate in their family, and and they were struggling with themselves because some of their colleagues or friends were studying in private schools or Ivy League. When we took them to certain places, at the end of the whole evening, everyone cried, and I thought maybe they are going to miss me a lot because I'm going to catch my flight. But no, the reason they were crying, and these were the tears, because they never realized that all this while they were living in luxury. Luxury is an experience. Luxury is something that you have never experienced before. Luxury is spending the time together, the moments together, because that will never come back. I love my father. He passed away in October 2019. I think those last days I remember because that was the most luxurious thing for me. I still remember him. His memories will stay with me. But that time will never come back. And through your podcast, I want to urge people that time is the most important part, and luxury is an experience. When we took students the last day, we took them for a $2 coffee, we took them for a $3 gelato, we took them $4.50, 450 tacos. But here, everybody who has money, like convertible cars or whatever you call it, the best of the bikes was there, standing in a queue and buying these things. Why? Because there was an experience, the experience of enjoying the best, and the experience of best is the real luxury. Many of us, we confuse in our life luxury to be expensive, and luxury has never been expensive. Actually, it has been very expressive, on the contrary. And 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 we, because of FOPO, fear of people's opinion, we never express ourselves. And so much we are losing on luxury just because of people. And that's why I use the word we, because let the fear go. That should be changed with the respect of people opinion, and let's enjoy the luxury and the time and the moments together.
Perfect. Thank you. So the subtitle of the book, and in all transparency, when people pitch us books and we get books and I look at them, what caught me first was the subtitle of the book, Where Creativity Meets Innovation, and that led me to open, to start to read, and to lead to us being here today. Um, talk to talk to us about what you mean by creativity meeting innovation. What does that mean to you? A lot of people put those two words, hook them together, say they're the same thing. Talk about that a little bit.
Oh, so I'll give you a very small example. The title of the book itself is a creativity meets innovation. There was a movie called A Bridge Too Far, which is a negative word. Now the word in singular not is also negative. Who could imagine that you add another negative not and create the whole thing a very positive, a bridge not too far? Now, when I say where creativity meets innovation is, we all dream. And I'm talking right now for majority of population. So when I'm saying right now the population is 8 billion plus, and I'm talking for 6 billion people today. We all dream. But out of 6 billion people, how many of us have that creativity or innovation to achieve our dreams? Yes, we have the creativity to dream, but what is the innovation to achieve that? So in 2003, when I joined Lobua and I was given the chance to work here, I saw the place and I said, I can create the history. And I did, because it became the world's first vertical destination. But that's not the most important part. What it did was that we created something very organic. Today, the world is talking about metaverse. In 2003, we understood the art of brain, the subconscious and the conscious mind. When people are in the lift, that is the elevator going up 250 meters, where your mind is wandering, you're looking at which floor you are, you're looking at the other people, looking at their clothes, their shoes, you're looking at yourself, or talking to someone. Suddenly, the door opens of the elevator and you're greeted by six guest relations people. And then everything around you in that whole place is so simple that there's no distraction. And when you enter that place out of the elevator, out of the box, your conscious mind clicks in for a second, and then your subconscious mind takes in on a higher gear, and you are all in a dream. And when you leave, that is the best experience for you. And that is the innovation we have created. The innovation we have created is, I ask, this is my favorite question: simple is difficult or difficult is difficult? Simple is difficult. We created the most simplest experience, and that became difficult for other people to copy.
So simplicity is your competitive advantage. Is that what you're saying?
See, when I came in 2003, I wanted to be the best. But everybody who was in the city was already the best. I couldn't have gone to people and said, you know what, I'm the best, because nobody would have believed me. And they were the best. And then the path we chose was something very different. We got into a food and beverage in the most simplest and elegant manner. And that's the difference I created so that I could be recognized. And I feel I'm being recognized because I'm at your show, Kevin, and you have my book in your hand.
Halfway around the world, right? Isn't it a wonderful place that we live?
Yeah.
One of Speaking of the book, one of the chapters is and one of the lessons in the very at the very end of the book, which we probably will get back to as well, is this idea of transcending trends. And I really like your thinking about this phrase. So talk about what you mean by transcending trends and how can all of us get better at doing that.
I think we have to think differently. And that's what I said. I think we have to think differently. We should not be having FOPO, fear of people's opinion. And whenever we have the chance, we should create an organization based on a hybrid of principle and rule based. Most of us, we are not able to do what we want to do because we are working in a rules based organization. When I tell people education is a key, people laugh because we all have left education after we left the universities. But we all forget that our education actually started when we left the universities.
Yeah. Well, let's hope, right? Not every it doesn't for some, but for those, I'm guessing everyone who's here watching or listening to this, that would be true for, or they wouldn't choose, to partake in this kind of a conversation. Um, so you asked me before we hit record and we started our conversation. You asked me a question that I don't get asked very often, actually. Um, because you knew that I had read the book and you asked me what my favorite part was. And we talked about what I thought we had as a common bond, which is our feelings about our fathers. Uh, but you talk about in the book about a story when things have not gone so well for you and you have to go home. And and I think if I remember right, you were 30, and you have to go home, and you're not looking forward to this flight home. You're not looking forward to interacting with your father after this has all happened. Um, and it ends up being a really powerful situation. Tell us a little bit about that. But then I want to transition into the idea about learning from failures and mistakes, because you were coming home because there'd been a failure and a mistake. So finish the story a little bit, if you would, and then take us into talking about failure and mistakes.
So I'm going to tell not so much in detail because I want everyone to read the book. And that's why I'm here on the podcast. And the reason I want them to read the book is not because I have written the book. The reason I want them to read the book is because they could save 10 years of their life in whatever they're doing in reading the book. And time is of great importance, nothing else. But not talking about this, when I became a failure and I was in Singapore and I had to go back, I struggled, and I think I almost went for 200 job interviews, and I wanted to pick up any job, any job. But sometimes in life, things doesn't happen. And maybe there is some power which wanted me to go and face my father, because which I didn't want to, because all this while he was telling me that what I'm doing is I'm too brash and too aggressive. And I was very, very scared. And my mother, she loves me. She loves me a lot. Okay. So my mother was sitting there, not trying to move out of the room, and she wanted to say something, and my father told her to hold on and say what happened. And I was like a little bit not very happy about it, and the fan was making the sound. And I told him what happened, and I knew that now I'm going to get it. But my father got up and said, I'm very proud of you. And then he told me his story of failures. And he said, today you make me proud, you have become a man. You're no more a child because you have accepted your failure. And today I'm so confident that you will start your journey. I don't know how much time it's going to take, but you're going to rise to the top.
Yeah, like I said, I love the story. So he said, hey, you've accepted your failure, right? You've acknowledged it, you've accepted it. So what are your thoughts now, many years after that happened? Um, what are your thoughts about learning from failure and mistakes?
I think it's very important to learn from failures, and I would say that for everyone. Not because learning from failures take you higher, but acceptance is the most important thing in today's world. We do not accept things, and that causes a lot of problem in today's world. In different spaces, in your workspace, in a political situation, in your neighborhood, everywhere. Acceptance is a very big thing. Failures teach us to put the head down and accept what you have done wrong. It doesn't tell you, and it doesn't guarantee that the next step would be a success. But acceptance tells you and gives you the confidence and pride that you can put your head high. Because when I went home, my head was down. When my father told me this thing, my head was high. And I suddenly got a lot of energy that, you know what, I can win the world. It took me some time because things don't happen overnight. And it took me some time. I put myself together, and now I am where I am. But still, I'm not where I should be. And that's why the book is written, that for people who want to be where they want to be, they should catch up on this book as early as possible, because a bridge is not too far.
Deepak Ohri, A Bridge Not Too Far, Where Creativity Meets Innovation. He is our guest, and that's the book we were talking about. So in the book, I'm going to read you just a paragraph, and I want you to answer the question. It's a question your wife asks you. And here is from the book, everybody. My wife, Anita, often asks me, my dear, why can't you enjoy your wins and celebrate your achievements? Why are you so restless to explore the next idea or business strategy? Why don't you just chill and enjoy your successes? So the reason I want you to answer that question is because a lot of people think about that. Like, when or why uh, do we? So my question is, how do you answer your wife in that moment?
See, wins, Kevin, wins when life is not a sprint, life is a marathon. Just winning a small sprint doesn't mean that you become successful. So, enjoyment should be a daily part of life. Enjoyment should not be when you have achieved a small milestone, because that is where we lack and lose happiness. For me, happiness is every day, every moment, and every second of life. Enjoyment is every second of life. And that is the reason I do not enjoy my wins, because my win is not that, okay, I've got this milestone. My win is the day I am able to ensure that all 8 billion people in this world are educated. That is where I'm going to sit and enjoy, because that is the message I'm spreading: education. And that will be my win. My win is not that if I become a billionaire or if I become the most global and the most famous hotelier. No, that's not what I want. In hospitality, and many hospitality people are going to react, and maybe they will not come to your show, Kevin, or maybe you're going to block me. But you know what? We retire and we become consultants, and then we are knocking every door that is possible, or we want to be staying in the game, and then that is where the politics begin. We never thought of educating people and adding values to these people. Now I'm going to ask a question which I will not answer, but I leave it to everyone, but I will tell them out of this. So there are five gentlemen. I'm going to take the name. Okay. One is Horst Schulze. Other is Isadore Sharp. Horst Schulze is the one founder of Ritz-Carlton Hotel. And then he started Capella. Now he's a consultant. Second is Isadore Sharp, who's the president and owner of Four Seasons. Third is J.W. Marriott. Fourth is late M.S. O'Brien. Fifth is late Captain Nair. Now, if we go by that and say whose book has sold the most, because you can check it, it is nowadays, everybody's going to say J.W. Marriott, no. Then they will say Isadore Sharp, no. The most highest amount of book is sold for Horst Schulze. And do you know why? Because in life, we are taught that if you lose your position, nobody is going to look at you. He wrote the book when he had lost Ritz Carlton position and Capella, and still he's the highest seller. You know why? Because he has added value and education to people's life. And that is where whoever is listening to this podcast, and that's what I say, that is the day I'm going to enjoy, when 8 billion people are educated, meaning everyone in the world. Education is a key. Add a value proposition to everyone who you're meeting. I can be the biggest guy, but that is not going to give me satisfaction.
Perfect. Well, this show is one small part of that mission, right? So, what's a question that I didn't ask? Is there something that, and I know that you and I talked beforehand. You said, Kevin, whatever's natural, whatever you want to talk about, which is fabulous. But my question is there something that I didn't ask, or is there, maybe stated a different way, is there something that we haven't talked about that you'd like to talk about?
Yeah. You didn't ask me the most powerful thing in the world.
I'm sorry.
What is the most powerful thing in the world?
Well, I know the answer, so I'll let you answer it.
It is time. Time is the most powerful thing. And time should be cherished. The day we learn to respect the time is the day the happiness will come automatically to many of us, not to all of us. And we go for other things because some of us are religious, some of us are looking at other things, but nothing is more powerful than time, because the time we lost today is never going to come back in our life.
And so many things in this book, everybody, A Bridge Not Too Far, talks about how we can use that time better. In fact, you heard him say earlier, buy a copy of this book, you'll save 10 years of your life. That would make it a pretty valuable book. So I want to shift gears before we finish and ask you a couple of other things. And you've accomplished a lot. We've talked a little bit about that and your philosophy about all that. So you obviously work a lot, but I'm curious, what do you do for fun?
Oh, I do a lot of fun. Really, I love to travel. I play tennis. I used to go cycling. I do running. I do walking. I love to chat with friends, eat, or whatever, go hiking, or you name it.
Perfect.
See, I tell you why. Now, many people say you have accomplished a lot. And this is a very important thing. Okay. And this is going to be part of my second book, which I'm writing, which is about happiness. So people say that why you enjoy so much in your life? Why can't you just put everything about work? So I met somebody from India, and he's a little bit older than me. So I'm already 55, but he's older than me. And we were sitting together and having coffee, and someone came. He said, "Hello, Mr. X, what are you doing?" He said, "I've retired." "Oh my God, you retired? So what are you going to do? So your life is done. So how do you pass time?" A work should be 10% of our life. Work is not life. Work is a part of life. And this is the message I want to give it to everyone. Work is only 10% of our life. In this life, we do everything, but one thing we never do? We never think about us individually. What have we done? We never reflect on ourselves. We get into the responsibilities, family, children, grandchildren, work, mortgage, you name it, and neighbors, fear of people opinion, everything. And one most important thing we never talk about is ourselves. And everyone who's listening, before you read the book, think about yourself. And if you like thinking about yourself, go and buy my book.
There again, a bridge not too far, where creativity meets innovation with Deepak Ohri. Speaking of reading, I know that you want everyone to read your book. What are you reading these days, or what's something you've read recently? For those of you that are only watching, excuse me, only listening, you can't see that there's a whole shelf of books behind him as we're chatting. Like, what are you reading these days?
I'm reading Morgan Dynasty, and I tell you why. Because when I was young, I went to first time overseas to Singapore, and I got a booking from. And that time India was not so developed. So Singapore, I came and I was taking the reservation, and the call came from J.P. Morgan, and they said we are calling from J.P. Morgan, and this is the name, and book a table for two. I didn't get the name; the accent was very different, but I wrote the booking, Mr. Morgan, two people. And there was somebody who was there. He said, "Oh, this is a bank." Thankfully, I had taken the number. We called them back, got the name. So I'm reading that book, and my audio book was next to Morgan Dynasty book in the business biography. But see my journey, and that's where I tell everybody that we should all dream, and that's where the creativity meets innovation. My journey was I didn't know that JP Morgan was a bank. Of course, initially in his life, early in his life, he was Mr. Morgan, but from there, and my book next to him on a audiobook is quite a journey. And I'm not proud of that. I want everyone to achieve their dreams, then I'll be proud. Because where I came from, it doesn't matter, and it doesn't matter where you all come from. What matters is where you stand today.
Uh, we've got a question that came in, and I was about ready to close up, but it's a great question. So I'm going to ask this coming from one of our listeners right now. Please elaborate on why our society today doesn't embrace failure as it should. As clearly indicated, people learn more from failure than success. So do you have anything you want to add to that thought?
Because people don't embrace failure because there's a fear of people's opinion, Bob. The day we convert that fear of people's opinion to the respect of people's opinion, failures will be embraced. Second, the organizations are rule based, they don't appreciate failures. The day we create the hybrid model where the organizations are principle and rule based, failures will be appreciated. What a very good question, Bob. I understand your sentiment. You should be the first one to buy my book.
There you go. Um, Speaking of your book, which we have obviously, where can people go to get a copy? Where do you want to point people? Is there anything that you want to let people know how they can get a hold of you, connected with you, etc.? I'll hold the book up
Go
while
to
you do that.
Amazon.com, Barnes and Noble, Harvard Bookstore, Books and Books in Miami. Means there are many options for them to go and buy the book.
So do that. And so now, before we finish, I have a question for all of you. Many of you, if you've been here before, you know I'm going to ask this question. And the question is, now what? What action are you going to take as a result? Maybe you got some ideas today related to time. Maybe maybe there's something that you want to take action on, this idea that simple is difficult. Maybe you've got things to consider around reflecting on, thinking about yourself. Maybe you want to think about the balance of principles and rules. Maybe, just maybe, you want to think a little bit more about creating more happiness and enjoyment in your life. Those are just a few of the things I wrote down, along with, of course, fear of people's opinions and how much is that impacting and ruling your day, week, and life. Deepak, thank you so much for being here. It was such a pleasure to have you.
Thank you, Kevin. You have a great day. Really appreciate it. Thank you, listeners. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.
You.
We'll be back next week with another episode of the Remarkable Leadership Podcast. We'll see you then.